you very much. Let's go on to our next question, please.
Simon Landau, is George Osborne right that he can cut £4 billion by making living on benefits a lifestyle choice, or is he just prejudiced?
This is the additional announcement from George Osborne that on top of the, £11 billion which the government had announced, indeed, in his budget about cuts to the welfare budget, he was seeking several billions more. The figure that's been put on it by the newspapers is £4 billion. Brendan Barber.
Well, I find that kind of language pretty offensive, actually. I mean, nobody supports or seeks to justify kind of benefit cheating or anything of that sort. But this idea that there are lots of people in the system who are simply sitting there comfortably taking benefits, I don't think is the real picture. So I find it very offensive. I mean, Ian Duncan Smith, the interesting thing about some of the ideas he's had for welfare reform, and he's now got the job as the minister running that department, it's very clear that for his ideas to be given a chance, they actually need more money up front put into the system to try and help get people back to work with active forms of support, and that costs money up front. But what's becoming clear, and I think George Osborne's trying to create the climate to drive this through, is that certainly his intention is not to perhaps make that extra investment necessary. It's to starve the welfare system of the resources that it needs. So we face a prospect of a period of rising unemployment, more jobs getting cut as a result of the expenditure cuts, and at the very time that potentially unemployment is going to start getting pushed up again, perhaps pretty sharply, a real cut in the benefits that support and sustain people who face redundancy and potentially long-term unemployment. That seems to me to be pretty disastrous.
Mark Harper, you were Shadow Minister for Disabled People. There are many people on with disabilities who are living on long-term benefits. They're going to be pretty alarmed by this kind of announcement.
Well, no, I think there's two issues here. There are definitely some people in our country, and I think everyone in every community knows who they are, who are perfectly able to work and don't. And those people mustn't be given the option of staying on benefits when other people are going out and working incredibly hard to try and support their families. But it's also true, and I saw this in my previous role, there are many people on incapacity benefit, and there were people who were on incapacity benefit for the whole period of the last government, some already there at the beginning and some through, who are desperate to work, some people with very severe disabilities, whether physical or mental health problems, who are desperate to work, but they're just not able to. And one of the things the government's got to do, the previous government made some progress in this direction, to be fair. We want to go further. It's to give them the opportunity to do so. That's why our work programme will be a single programme, very personalised, not saying to people, are you on the right benefit, what help do you get, but trying to fit the help that they get to the particular needs that they've got, because we want to give people the opportunity to make a contribution, to get into work, so that they can live a better life. And I think if we were only doing just cutting benefits for the sake of it, that would be wrong, but we're not. We're tying that with a programme of extensive help to get people back into work, whether they have a disability or not.
I have to say your answer provoked rather a loud sigh from Simon Landau, our questioner. Do you want to come back in briefly before I bring in the other panellists?
Yeah, undoubtedly. The language used is disgraceful, should be condemned by any right-thinking person, and so Brendan Barber is absolutely right. Mark Harper then immediately prefaces his answer with exactly the same kind of statement as the Chancellor of Exchequer, and he should be condemned for that. It is not politically at all justifiable. He should produce the figures, lay them before Parliament, not before radio programmes.
Can I come back briefly on that?
Well, no, I gave a very balanced answer when I said there are some people, and it was very clear during the general election campaign, because everybody sees them, able-bodied people who have no barriers to work, who choose not to. And there's nothing that upsets people who work hard to take care of their families, who see other people living at least as good a life as they do, who don't work for a living. They find it outrageous, and particularly when money is very tight, they want the government to do something about it. But there are equally people who need extra help and support to get back into work, and the coalition government plans to deal with both of those problems in a very balanced way. And that was what the Chancellor was saying.
Ed Balls, in truth, this is pretty much the sort of thing that Labour ministers were saying before the election. We've got to cut the welfare bill. There are people there who are on welfare who shouldn't be on welfare, and we're going to tackle it.
Look, of course, nobody wants to see some people playing by the rules and paying their taxes and to think that other people aren't pulling their weight. Of course that's the case. But let's be clear about what's going on. We have an economy which has got fewer jobs in it, and that could get worse. But more than that, the Future Jobs Fund, the creation of jobs for young people, is being cut by George Osborne. He's actually abolishing that. He's taking away the jobs which were there. I think it's fine to say, if we can establish a right to work matched by a responsibility to take that job, I'll support that. But to do that, you've got to invest in the opportunities for young people, and it's being cut in this city and across the country by George Osborne. I'm afraid the philosophy is different. He doesn't think we should create the opportunities. He thinks that somehow if we make people poorer, they'll search harder. And the problem with this, and I'm afraid this is where it does get into the nasty politics. I, as a Member of Parliament, and many members of the Parliament at the moment, are getting lots of phone calls from people with disabilities who are very, very fearful about what is going to happen to their benefits and their lifestyle and their chances in the next period. And they say, well, look, the Coalition said that they weren't going to cut tax credits, but now we see that they are. The Coalition said that they weren't going to take away winter fuel allowance, but now we see they are. They said that the housing benefit changes were about work, and in fact it's £11 for a pensioner, £13 for a person with a disability living on housing benefit, and people fear this isn't about supporting work, which I'm in favour of, but it's actually just about cutting money for some of the most vulnerable people in our society, and people are very, very fearful.
Anne McElvoy.
Well, by no means everyone on benefits is doing it as a lifestyle choice, but that's not the same thing as saying that there are not sizable numbers of people on benefits who are there as a lifestyle choice. I think George Osborne is right about that. And why does it matter? It matters economically for the reasons that we all know, and we've been round a bit tonight, but actually it also matters culturally, it matters socially, because the people who are trapped in spirals of dependency in the benefit system do not hand on a good way of life to their children. They're not able to do what a lot of us take for granted, which is to feel the fulfillment of work and to earn through it and to move on through doing so. And I think, in fairness, the Labour government did recognise this, and it did try to do something about it, but it was quite sporadic. There were, I think, a good half dozen ministers who tried to do things, but the course kept changing, and it's very difficult to reform the welfare system. So when George Osborne speaks in this way, it might be blunt, but I think it does show that he's ambitious about it. And I think the coalition should be ambitious about it, because it really is not good to have people trapped on benefit who shouldn't be there. It's not good for any of us, and it really is not good for them.